Hey guys, and welcome to another video from Odyssey Frontiers. Today I'm going to be answering the question of how do you start game development from nothing? How do you get experience in something you have little to no experience about? I'm going to be giving you some advice today for that and how I did it myself as I started 3 years ago. And before I get into things here, I just want to let you know that I am working on a 3D parkour platformer called Neon Revolution, all about transforming a lifeless, colorless world into a disco celebration. More info on that is in the description below. So to start out here, the short answer is to just start. Just get started on some form of project, learning something in game development. Start some sort of small project to get experience. It is easier to just get started rather than really thinking about it too much. Good to plan, but good to also just get experience and start doing. And as a longer answer, it is definitely possible. It is, if you're worried about that, how do you even start? Just get started. It is 100% possible. Everybody starts from nothing and works their way up to get experience. And that's just something that I think with social media and YouTube, it just makes it so that people make you think that they started from maybe knowing where, because people only show the best parts of themselves more often than not. And I'm trying to be transparent, and I'm hoping I'm coming across that way, but it is not easy, and starting out was definitely took a while, and I still don't know everything there is to know about it. I know enough to get me through what I need to do, and I'm still watching tutorials now, so don't feel bad about watching tutorials. I'll get into that later here in the video. I'm going to be giving you some good resources and advice for how to get started in that process and how I did it myself. So my main point of advice is to start simple. Start with some sort of visual coding interface, something like Scratch by MIT, which is a fully online game engine that you can make games by clicking together blocks, and that is a very good way of starting out making games. You can actually play other games on there as well that other people have made and post your own games on there for other people to play. This is the easiest way to start because it requires no coding experience, and it really teaches you the fundamentals of how to make a game and how to make everything interact with each other. And in that, making a small game or two to get a feel for how to actually go about starting and completing a game and the full process of it. And have others play it. Feel the accomplishment of completing a game. It really is a very good feeling to know that you've accomplished something and made it, even if it's small. Just that small win definitely helps. And from there, researching your game engine. It's going to be time to find a game engine. So a game engine is just the software that allows you to make a game. It provides you usually with a visual interface and some form of coding area that you can actually program things and make things interact with each other. And the biggest thing is that they'll usually have a physics engine. So you don't have to worry about making everything collide or making stuff fall to the ground with gravity, or rise up if there's anti-gravity. That's all handled by the game engine. So when finding a game engine, choose one that definitely fits your skill level, but also try to make it more future-proof so that it's something you can grow into as well. And don't pay for one. There's plenty of free options, and I don't know of any paid game engines off the top of my head, but I would not recommend paying for one, especially when you're starting out. And next up would be to pick one that will work on your computer, because certain ones will not run well on older computers, but while other ones will usually run okay on older machines and something that they can handle. So I would definitely look into that in your game engine search. And I'm actually going to give you a few ideas here for major ones that I know of and that I personally use. So the first up here is Unity. Unity uses a visual interface as well as C# as the coding language. The coding language is not too hard to learn. It's usually pretty straightforward. There's plenty of tutorials online. And it does have a visual interface, but I personally have never used it, and I haven't heard too great of things about it in terms of user friendliness. Unity is the one that I use all the time with all my games that I've built. Besides, I made a few in Scratch as well beforehand. But Unity is the one that I would recommend personally, just due to the easy-to-use interface, and it has good 3D and 2D game support. The next one up would be Godot, or Godot. This one uses the Python coding language, as well as a visual interface also. I have seen 2D and 3D games made in this. It is an open source platform, so it is made and managed ultimately by the people who use it. Well, managed by a few people, but they get tips and advice from those who actually use it, the users. This one I've also heard good things about, and it's very popular online. The next up was Unreal. Unreal Engine has the best graphical fidelity of all the other ones, and is the easiest to achieve good graphics in that engine. But on the other hand, the games made in it have trouble running on older machines, and the software itself, the Unreal software, often does not run good on a lower end computer. It also does use C++, which is a harder code system to learn, but has a very good and well-rounded visual coding interface to make that more accessible for everybody. It's probably the hardest to learn from what I've heard, but it is definitely something to check out if you're looking into an easier way to get good graphics in a 3D game. I would not recommend 2D in it though, because it's not mainly supported in that one. The fourth one here, and the last major one that I want to talk about, is Scratch. That's the one that I had mentioned earlier in this video as a beginner one. Is a very good beginner game engine. It allows you to make great 2D games using the drag and drop block system for coding. It's probably the easiest to get started on and to learn and make games in, but it is not one that I would say is good for longevity, as it is quite difficult to actually get any sort of following or reach in that, and the games, it's very limited. It has no physics engine. The games end up usually being pretty simple and harder to do more complex things in that than other game engines. And finally, other niche game engines that I don't know much about are options for those are GDevelop, Game Maker, and Defold. I don't know much about those, and I can't really recommend you either way with those, but there are other options out there for you. There's plenty of game engines. Like I said, picking one that suits your needs, has a good set of tutorials online, runs on your computer, and is free. I would recommend looking for those bits of information when looking for a game engine. And any of the four that I mentioned previously are usually very good options. So after you've decided on your game engine, it's time to definitely learn about it, because this is going to be your main tool. This is where you're going to be making the games from here on out. So unless if you were to choose a different one, it's up to you. But finding a good in-depth tutorial, usually around an hour to 3 hours, I think it can even go up to like 5 or 10 hours, but I feel like that's a bit excessive, to make a first game. So this would be just to show you, this is how I started out, is a 2-hour-long tutorial that taught me how to make a game from start to finish in Unity. It ended up taking me around 10 hours to fully complete, but it was very helpful for showing me the whole process. It helps you see the game making process from start to finish, rather than in little bits and pieces like through through some other tutorial series. And while you're making the game through the tutorial, applying some of your own things, just kind of playing around with the code a little bit, and the visual interface definitely helps to get some more experience with it and kind of learn what you're dealing with and how stuff works. Maybe adding a glow effect to the player, or making the player jump instead of slide, or adding another color. It's up to you. There's plenty of things that you can do, and just kind of play around with it and see what works and what doesn't work. Your goal is to really get experience in the game engine at this point. And then from there, just making a few small games without relying fully on a tutorial is important. Getting full experience in actually making a game by yourself, that doesn't mean without any help. In fact, you should definitely be looking online or for friends or that would be able to give you extra assistance and guidance and everything, because nobody knows everything there is about it, and you're never going to learn everything. So everybody uses tutorials. It happens. It's honestly just a normal thing for game development, honestly, because they're very helpful and they provide a lot of knowledge that you don't already have. Me especially, like, I'm still using tutorials to this day, not for everything, but for certain mechanics or maybe how to add some sort of visual effect I didn't already know about. They're very helpful and a good, effective way to start, but eventually you're going to need to learn how to do certain things yourself and be creative while just using tutorials as tools to help you get where you need to go. And from here is really where you kind of start to go off on your own. The game development world is very large. There's a lot of things you can do. And from this point, you can keep making smaller games. I would recommend keeping your first few games under like 3 months of development. If you want to make it larger, like a year or two, it can happen, and it's not a terrible thing if it does. It's just make sure you finish the game. That's the big thing is, and the hardest thing for everybody is actually finishing a game. It can be definitely hard to actually get something done, but it definitely feels like a very big accomplishment when you do. So I just want to leave you with that bit of advice there. Make sure you finish what you start. It's definitely a very good way of going about things. All right, and that is all that I have for today. If you like how I did this video today, and you would consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, I really appreciate that. If you have any ideas for other videos or comments on how I did this video today, or any other ideas that you have that are related to this one, just put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to read them. Thanks for watching.